I wanted to share with you some student examples of the analysis of structure in fiction. So this is the task that's required for question 3. We'll be testing you on this after Easter, and in the slides that follow you'll be able to see student responses to the question about Alex Cold that we've been looking at in lessons. So as you know by now, the question is all about examining how the text is structured to interest you as a reader. So we have been practicing looking at the beginning, finding something in the middle, and then looking at the end. So looking at the structure of the entire extract. And then what you're doing is you're explaining what the writer does and when they do it and why they do it there. So what happens in the beginning? Why? What does the writer do in that section to keep us interested? What does the writer then do in the middle? Why do they do that? And what does the writer do at the end? And why do they do that? So let's have a look at a student answer to the extract from The City of the Beasts by Isabel Allende. Here's the first paragraph. This is written by Sarah. The writer interests the reader from the very beginning by sucking us into Alex's devastating dream. During the dream, he witnesses his mum get taken away by an enormous black bird. This helps us to clearly understand from the very beginning that his mother must be severely ill and he is worried about losing her. We start to worry and try to empathise as we don't know what is wrong with her, and the fact that she was taken sparks feelings of fear. By starting with this nightmare and the frightening metaphor of his mum in the claws of the black bird, the writer shows the severity of what is going on in Alex's life and his inner turmoil. This turmoil is underlined by the description of the real-life storm that greets Alex when he wakes. Life is imitating his state of mind. Now, the reason I've shared this particular paragraph is because there are elements of this that you can use in your own writing for any response to this sort of question. So when you have to look at structure, the phrases I've highlighted in yellow will be really useful for you. So first of all, the writer interests the reader from the very beginning by, and that leads you directly into explaining what the writer's done. So the writer interests the reader from the very beginning by. Secondly, I've highlighted where it says this helps us to clearly understand early on that. So again, that leads you into explaining what we get from that opening. And using verbs like understand, keep it nice and clear for the reader. What you're saying is you're identifying what the writer's done and you're telling the reader what that means for you. What does that help us understand? Then there are phrases like we start to. So what do we start to do? In this case, Sarah said we start to worry. And then I like this last section, by starting with this nightmare, the writer shows. So I like those two phrases as a pair. By starting with this, the writer shows. So you could use those phrases in your own paragraph about any text. The writer interests the reader from the very beginning by. This helps us to clearly understand early on that. We start to what? By starting with this, the writer shows. You could use that throughout for each paragraph. But let's have a look at the next one. The setting then gradually shifts to the breakfast table, where the mood seems not to have budged. The atmosphere from the nightmare doesn't change. We see this continuity in mood through the use of dialogue. It is obvious Alex has a lot to deal with when we see him snap at his sisters and get noticeably angry. Shut up, Nicole. Alex clearly doesn't want to let go of his mum. I think the writer chose to convey this through dialogue at this point because it gives a clear understanding of how the whole family feels, but highlights how Alex is suffering on his own, evoking more sympathy from us. What I liked about this are the phrases, again, that you can use in your own answer. So I like the opening, the setting then gradually shifts. So you could change that adverb to anything, but the fact that the setting shifts, so we change where we are. Always look, remember, for changes in setting, changes in time, shifts in focus. The mood, I really like the fact that Sarah picks up on the fact that the mood seems not to have changed, or I like the way she says not budged. So in structural terms, that's really important. Look at when the mood changes in a piece of writing, and if it hasn't changed, point it out, because that then adds to our understanding of that mood. And then she also references the atmosphere too. So the mood seems not to have budged, and the atmosphere doesn't change. I like this phrasing, we see this, continuity in mood, through the use of. So we see this through the use of. It was similar to the one in the last slide, but always pointing out what the writer has done. What have they used to get this idea across of the mood being the same? And then the ending I really like. I think the writer chose to convey this through this method at this point because. I really like at this point because again you're emphasizing the fact that you're looking at the structure, at how this text has been put together, what happens when. So at this point I think the writer chose to convey this through dialogue because. At this point, really useful phrase for this question. And then the final paragraph, towards the end of the extract, we learn about the memories Alex has of his mother. These are portrayed in a list to show what is going on in Alex's head, emphasizing all the things he has lost down to even the discipline that his mother gave out. We also see the mother's hobbies and personality, painting, cooking, music, laughing, followed by the contrasting description of the dried up paints and blank canvas that shows us that all that colour and personality has gone. This helps us to appreciate what Alex is missing and gives context to the nightmare at the start. The final use of the powerful metaphor, the silent ghost, shows how Alex's mother is fading away. This absolutely explains the opening nightmare and leaves us in no doubt about what Alex is going through. So in the final paragraph, again phrasing that I really like, this opening one towards the end of the extract we learn about. So again that verb learn. Always use verbs to explain what we do. We learn, we appreciate, we understand, we recognise, we sympathise. So add in verbs after the word we to describe what we do as readers. The other thing I really like is this ending section, which is very cool, where they talk about what this helps us to appreciate, but they emphasize the point that the blank canvas and the silent ghost gives context to the nightmare at the start and explains the opening to leave us in no doubt about what Alex is going through. This is the key. If you can identify in the end section something that sheds light on an earlier moment, then absolutely mention it. Because structurally, if you come across something, it's like unfolding clues. It's like making links. In the opening, we don't know fully what his nightmare's about. It's only at the end that we understand. We get context for that nightmare. We understand why he's thinking about a blackbird taking his mother out of the window in its claws. And the final, I really like the final line where it says, leaves us in no doubt about. That's a great question to ask yourself at the end of the text when you've read it. What does this writer want to leave me in no doubt about? Do they want me to be in no doubt that this character is going to be successful? Do they want to leave me in no doubt that there's going to be an argument? What do they want to leave you in no doubt about? It's a great line to end on. Because it's all about what the writer has done structurally. How have they left you? Brilliant. I was really pleased with the work that I saw. I'll put another video up with some question 4s because there was some equally effective work done for today on question 4. So well done, Year 11, and thank you for watching.